Here we go with Bible trivia. What is the seventh commandment? Seventh commandment.
Thou shalt not.
Thou shalt not
Steal.
lie.
Okay. For those who said thou shalt not lie, which is thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor, that is wrong.
Okay, I put myself
Thou
on.
shalt not steal.
Steal.
Those who said thou shalt not steal, the answer is wrong.
Oh, wow.
What the heck? Let me look.
Come on.
You shall not steal. Seventh commandment, you shall not commit. Oh, you shall
That's
not commit
easy. Thou shalt
adultery.
not commit adultery.
Adultery. Oh my goodness.
Of course.
Adultery is correct. Okay.
The seventh sin.
Memorizing the 10 commandments is
you're
good
right.
to just have.
I think so.
Number 1, you shall have no other gods. Number 2, you shall have no graven image or idols. Number 3, you shall not use the Lord's name in vain. Number 4 is remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. Number 5 is honor your father and mother.
Yes.
Number 6 is murder. Number 7 is don't commit adultery. So even though you think if you commit adultery, you think you're in heaven, you're not going to heaven if you commit adultery. 7 heaven. There you go.
5, honor your
Okay,
parents.
anybody else? Yeah, and then number 8, don't steal. Number 9, thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. And number 10, which covers every sin, thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's possessions, etc. All right, Maddie, you have your hand raised. Go ahead. We got to keep this going.
Yeah. What did God
it's good
say?
to remember. It's good to remember.
What did God say about adultery? What does it take for a man to be caught in adultery, according to God's eyes?
Ooh, I know we're going with that, man. Anybody have any ideas about what adultery is in God's eyes? Which all of you commit, by the way. All of you are guilty.
What is adultery? Is if you
in
look
God's
at
eyes. In God's eyes. Ed says it's cheating.
If you look at someone with lust.
You got it, Sister Susie.
Okay, so lust is desiring, that other person.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm married and I never committed adultery, that's physical. But if I lusted after another woman, Ed says lusting hard after a woman. So if you're lusting hard after a woman, but I didn't touch her, Lord, I'm guilty. Your heart, is guilty. You're guilty before God. So women, if you lust after a man, you're guilty. Man, if you lust after a woman, you're guilty. See, we're all guilty. That's why we all fall short. And you can argue and say, I didn't touch anybody. I didn't, I didn't sleep with anybody.
You don't need to.
You don't need to. Just in your heart. So you lust in your heart. You're guilty. That's why we need God's mercy. We need God's grace.
Yes.
See, and it does, and it I don't know about you, but it puts me in the position that I'm not any better. I'm not better than anybody, right? I'm not I'm not self-righteous. I'm not holier than thou. I'm being honest and truthful before the Lord. And I acknowledge that I fall short of the standard that God has set.
So we cannot go up to God and say, well, compared to Brother Bert, I'm better, so I should be. That doesn't work with God.
Why would you think you're better?
That's a good question.
Because you're not committing adultery physically. So you think you're better because I'm not committing adultery physically, but God knows your heart. You've committed adultery in your heart. So you're not any better. How's that?
Buy that.
I'll buy it
2
too.
loaves of bread.
I think it fits. This is how you process these teachings, right? You don't just read it, but you try to practice and process it. Like, what is it really going to mean for me to not commit adultery? Well, if you really want to know, it's not just physical, it's your heart.
Emotional.
You lust in your heart, that makes you guilty. So don't think you're any better just because you don't do the physical act, So it should humble all of us. And I think it just, you remember the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, what is this? What is that? Blessed are the poor in spirit.
Poor in spirit.
For theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
So the fact that I see myself as being poor in spirit, I'm not rich in spirit, I'm poor. Why? Because I'm an adulterer. But he says, you're blessed, Bert, because the kingdom of heaven belongs to people like you, who acknowledges their poor spiritual condition. There's nothing to be proud of. I'm a spiritual beggar. So if you're finding yourself being a spiritual beggar, being spiritually poor, the kingdom of heaven belongs to you. That's the good news.
Here's the question, Pastor.
Okay, Daniel, go ahead. Tell me about Moses. Go ahead. No, we studied that yesterday.
Okay, everyone. Listen carefully to the question. It would be easy. When Jesus and Peter paid their taxes, where did they get the payment?
Say it slowly.
From the mouth of a fish.
Oh man, Sister Daphne, you're the best man in the whole world. Exactly, you can find it in Matthew 17, verse 26 and 27.
Go ahead and read the story.
Sister Daphne,
You guys get some background information. Go ahead and read the story.
Okay, Matthew 17, verse 26. They taxed the people they have conquered. Peter replied, well then, Jesus said, the citizens are free. However, we don't want to offend them. So go down to the lake and throw in a line. Open the mouth, the first fish you catch, and you'll find a large silver coin. Take it and pay the tax for both of us. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord Jesus.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the miracle part of it. Do you know the story of it? What's the whole story? You got the miracle part. What's the whole story? First of all, the miracle part, God can give you provision, even as miraculous as coming from a place you wouldn't expect, the mouth of a fish, to pay your taxes. Thank God he's our provider.
Unbelievable.
But the background story, what's the background story? They
Payment
had
of-
to pay the taxes.
Oh.
Why?
Yeah,
And if they're paying taxes, who are they paying taxes
To
to?
Caesar.
The Romans?
Caesar. To
Roman.
Caesar.
Caesar, to the Romans.
Okay. For those who said you're paying taxes, they were paying taxes to the Romans. The answer is, Daniel,
Caesar.
what's the answer? Is that right or wrong?
To Caesar.
It's the temple tax.
It's the temple tax,
Temple tax.
guys. You know what the temple tax is?
Ah,
The temple tax is the tax they pay for the Jerusalem temple. So it's a religious tax.
No.
And it's not to the Romans. So that's a good distinction, right? That there's a difference between paying the temple tax, which is in Jerusalem, paying the tax for the sake of, upkeep of the temple, okay, which is a religious tax, different from the tax you pay to the Romans.
No.
You guys get it? Temple tax. So you got a background story on that, right? Temple tax.
mm.
You guys are moaning and groaning. Do you guys read it? Daniel, okay, I don't have my Bible in front of me. I should get it. But read the background story and then we'll slow it down a little bit. Go ahead.
Right away, Pastor, whatever you say.
Read the background. Read the background story. Where is it found? In Luke?
No, it's in Matthew chapter 17.
Okay, let's go there, guys, if you want to. Matthew 17.
24 to 27.
Hold
Okay,
on,
let's
hold
get
on,
the
hold on.
let's get the background story. You guys learned something, right? There's a difference between temple tax and paying taxes to Caesar.
Matthew?
Mm-hmm.
Matthew what?
17,
17,
24.
24.
24.
Okay, so let's go there.
I'm there.
Okay, go ahead, Daniel. You get to read.
Payment of the temple tax. On their arrival in Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and asked him, "Doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax?"
Okay, first of all, remember you're dealing with tax collectors, right? So their job is to collect the taxes from the people. And this is a Jewish context because it's about paying the temple tax. This is for the religious people, not for the Romans to pay. Nobody else pays it, only the Jews who are honoring God in this temple tax. And so in this temple tax, right, the question is, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? Who's the teacher?
Jesus.
Right.
They're
So
referring him.
Jesus, right, and his followers are required to pay the temple tax. And it's like, we're waiting for you to pay the temple tax. Doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? So that's the context, right? Okay, continue.
"Yes, he does," Peter replied. Then he went into the house. But before he had a chance to speak, Jesus asked him, "What do you think, Peter? Do kings tax their own people or the people they have conquered?" "They tax the people they have conquered," Peter replied. "Well then," Jesus said, "the citizens are free. However, we don't want to offend them. So go down to the lake and throw in a line, open the
Okay,
mouth."
let's stop there. Okay. The context again is most likely in Capernaum, and we went there when we went to the Israel tour. In the city of Capernaum, Peter lives in Capernaum. His house is in Capernaum, and he lives near the what is it? He lives near the synagogue. Okay, and so it looks like they're collecting for the temple tax in the synagogue, right? And so, but they're not, it's not in Jerusalem. It's taking place. It's actually in Capernaum, and then it's to pay for the temple in Jerusalem, though. Now, when they're discussing, paying the taxes, they're now at Peter's house. Okay, they're no longer in the synagogue area where the religious people meet. They went home to talk about it, and so Jesus is asking the question, "What do you think, Simon?" Right? From whom do kings of the earth collect duty and taxes from? Their own sons or from others, is my translation. So the question is, okay, we're talking about, in principle, the king of his kingdom, right? When there is a king and he has the kingdom, who does he collect taxes from? Does he collect taxes from his own children? Mine says his own sons. Or does he collect it from others? And then what's Peter's answer? What's the answer? Do you collect it from your own sons or from others? And so the answer is from others. That's what Peter answered. You don't collect it from your own sons, your own children, right? To pay the taxes to the king. That's his family. His family don't need to pay taxes, right? His sons. It's the people, the peasants, the population. They need to pay the taxes to the king. That's in principle. And so it's very clear that Jesus is pointing out that the sons don't have to pay taxes. Okay? Then the sons are exempt, Jesus said to him. See? So if I'm a son of the king and somebody says, hey, you need to pay taxes, I'll say, I don't have to pay taxes. My father is the king. You understand? Don't try to collect taxes from me. My father is the king. I'm exempt. Okay, following the story so far? So the sons are exempt, Jesus said. Right? This is a discussion between Jesus and Peter about what happened, in regard to collecting the temple tax. But look what Jesus says. But so that we may not offend them. Okay? Jesus is basically saying, we're sons of God. We don't have to pay the tax. Okay? Because my father is the king and I'm his son. I don't have to pay tax. But so that we won't offend them. So Jesus was concerned about offending them. Think about that. He could have said, I don't have to pay taxes. I'm the son. No, but he says, in order that we don't offend them. Okay? So Jesus was, in a sense, you could say he's being political, right? He doesn't want to offend them. He doesn't want to make a big scene about not having to pay the taxes, even though he has every right not to pay the temple tax. But he says, but in order that we don't offend them, go to the lake and throw out your line. Here's the miracle. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours. There you go. So that's the miracle part. He accommodates the fact that these tax collectors for the temple, they have a job to do. He's not going to fight them over the principle of, I don't have to pay the temple tax. I'm a son. No, he says, in order not to offend them, it's almost like, let's just smooth this out. Let's go ahead and pay it. And I'm doing this not because I owe any money to the temple tax. I don't have, like Jesus already established, I don't have to pay because I'm a son of the king, but in order not to offend them. So he's accommodating them, let them do their job. We'll go ahead and pay it. And that's the big picture of that story, Brother Daniel. What do you think? You guys learned something?
For the sake of peace, Pastor Bert.
Yeah, did you learn something? Yeah, and Jesus was concerned about not offending them. Even if it's going to cost him, a tax. Hey, let's just take care of it. Like I said, he didn't have to, but he wanted to in order not to offend them. All right. So that's a good lesson, I think. Temple tax is different from the tax concerning this paying taxes to Caesar. You guys ready? In chapter 22 of Matthew, as we're talking about taxes, verse 15, then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap Jesus in his words. Okay. Now, remember these Pharisees, they're like expert in law. They're very intelligent, and they have ways of getting you to use your words against you. And that's what they were trying to do with Jesus. They were trying to trap him. And so they sent their disciples to Jesus along with the Herodians, okay, which is those who belong to the king, maybe servants of the king. Teacher, they said, we know you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. So they're complimenting him, softening him up for the trap. Okay. You aren't swayed by men because you pay no attention to who they are. And all this is true. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? You guys know the answer that Jesus gave?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, good. You guys know the answer, but let's slow it down. When they said, is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Jesus is given two choices. Pay it to Caesar or not. So let's explore the two options. If he says, yes, you should pay taxes to Caesar, what's going to happen to Jesus' popularity and the people who are following Jesus? What are they going to think of Jesus?
Hypocrite.
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 Why are they going to call Jesus a hypocrite?
Going against what he believes in.
Huh?
He's going against what he believes in. If he do that, if he go ahead.
If he tells everybody, all of you should pay taxes to Caesar, what are the Jews going to think?
He say the Jews, well,
See, you got to consider the political environment. Who is the ruler of Israel at this point?
Caesar.
Right. And what are the Jews compared to the Romans? They're the conquered people, right?
They were
Right.
slaves.
It's better.
They're the enemies because they're conquering our land, is their mindset. Okay. So for Jesus to say, go ahead and pay your taxes to Caesar, what's the people gonna say in response? Making you think, huh?
Okay. Well, Well, they should say Jesus he don't want to make waves with no one. And he don't want his people to get in trouble with the Romans. So go ahead and if they say pay, we got to do what the government says and pay. But I got to give to my father what I owe him.
Okay, you're on the right track. They're going to be thinking along the lines as, man, he's a traitor.
Yeah.
Jesus is a traitor. He's supposed to help us get our land back. He's supposed to get, he's our Messiah. He is supposed to help us defeat the Romans. Now he's telling us to pay taxes to Romans? Man, he's betraying us. Do you see that trap? It's a trap, right? Come on, Jesus, you're going to tell everybody to pay taxes to Caesar, and people who are against Rome or the Romans in occupying the land of Israel, we're going to pay taxes to them? You're telling us to do that? What kind of, leader are you? What kind of, Messiah are you? You're a traitor. Telling us to
But
pay
if we're
taxes
under
to Caesar.
Caesar's rule, we have to abide by the government's rule.
Well, but that's not the trap, right? The trap is to get Jesus to look like he's a traitor. Does he look like a traitor by telling you to pay taxes to Caesar? Yeah, if I was a zealot, if I wanted to overthrow Rome, I would definitely think he's a traitor. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, if Jesus said no, right? Because it says pay the taxes to Caesar or not, right? So if Jesus says no, don't pay the taxes to Caesar, then what would Jesus be appearing to be? Making you guys think, right? Don't just read it. Got to think about the whole context. If Jesus said no, don't pay the taxes, then what would happen?
They would be wrong. They'd probably be stoned.
Who would be stoned?
The people that didn't pay taxes.
Stoned by who?
By the Roman soldiers.
Okay, you're on the right track, right? Now Rome is going to have problems with you. Right? You're telling the population not to pay taxes. We will arrest you. We're going to send you to jail and maybe even execute you for being a revolutionary. We don't want to have rebellion. And so Jesus would come off as a rebel, telling people, don't pay your taxes to Caesar. You see the context now? So what is Jesus going to do? He only has two choices. And it's a trap. Do you see the trap?
Yeah, he has to pay to Caesar. What is in the picture of the coin?
Okay, so you guys understand the trap.
Yeah.
He can't say yes, pay to Caesar. He's gonna look bad. And you can't say no, don't pay to Caesar. He's also gonna look bad. Either way, he's gonna look bad. That was the trap that they set for Jesus. So here is where Jesus handles it and avoids the trap. Okay? Jesus, knowing their evil intent, see that? Because they were trying to trap him. You hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Is his response. Okay? See, he knew they were trying to trap him with that kind of question and giving him two choices. You got to love Jesus's wisdom for this, right? So Jesus says, show me the coin used for paying the tax. So he said, give me the coin. Here. Okay. And then what does he say? They brought him a denarius, and he asked them the question now. Okay. Whose portrait is this?
Mm-hmm.
and whose inscription? Okay, whose portrait is this on the coin, and whose inscription is it?
Caesar.
Then he said to them, right? They replied, Caesar's.
Then
Then
pay
he
to
said to
Caesar.
them, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. Don't you appreciate his wisdom? Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
When they
Yes.
heard this, they were amazed. So they left him and went away. There it is. See, so he was being trapped. He only had two choices. What does he do?
He was being
He
fair.
handles, he handles it like a master teacher.
Yes.
And then he says, well, whose face and inscription do you see on the coin? Give to Caesar what is Caesar. Give to God what is God. So, this is the basis for understanding the difference between giving to, the government, what you owe the government, give to Caesar what is Caesar, and then giving to God what you owe God. And what do you owe God? What you owe God is your life.
Everything.
Okay, guys? You owe your life to God. And so the teaching is we should give to God what belongs to God, right? Or give whatever obligation you have to God to God. So you can separate the two between your obligation to the government and your obligation to God. Okay? Let's see here. Where the tax breaks, what age? Well, as far as the law, the Roman law regarding taxes, I'm not really knowledgeable of that. But I think the point of this is to understand the difference between your obligation to the government compared to your obligation to God. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God. Okay? And so you give your life to God right now, right? This is the time to give to God. It's today. It's the principle of if you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts. You're taught through the scriptures that living in this world means living for God, right? That's the only way for us to live. That's why we pray, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It's not about our will be done. It's about God's will be done in our lives on earth as it is in heaven. Okay? So you give your life to God. That's the direction we need to go. Manny, you have your hand raised and we could probably wrap it up, but go ahead, Manny.
Okay. Wounds from a friend that can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies what?
We studied that the other day in Proverbs.
Uh-huh.
Who remembers what would an enemy do to you compared to a friend who wounds you? Does anybody remember what the enemy does? Do you want a hint of what the enemy does?
How about keeping your life simple?
Yes.
What?
Oh, I missed that.
Keeping your life simple. What do you do to
It's
keep
always
your life
good, but
simple?
It's
huh. Is that the hint?
yeah, that's the hint. The enemy
Kisses you.
yeah. It's in Proverbs chapter 27, right, Manny?
Correct. Verse
Read
6.
it for us. Read it for us. What
Wounds,
verse?
verse 6.
There you go.
wounds of a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses.
Really?
Yeah. Wisdom is calling.
Hmm.
You know what KISS stands for, right?
Keep
K-I,
it simple.
yes.
Keep it simple, stupid.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's it, Daphne.
There you go.
There you go. That's right. That is what KISS stands for in the business world, or in general too. All right. On that note, let's wrap it up, Manny. Would you like to close us and then go ahead and play your song?
Sure. Let's see here.
Pastor Bert,
Oh yeah, go ahead.